And so you both worked in B2B and B2C, and I get a question a lot about what's the difference. And I have some thoughts. I've given those thoughts, but I'd love to hear from both of you.
I'm actually at a B2B company now.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I could start. So from my perspective, working in B2C for a long time, I think especially big company product management, you're doing a lot of experimentation or A/B testing. You're also probably doing a lot of data analysis and worrying about the taxonomy of your product. And small changes in your product can make a big difference to the company's top line, to conversion, to retention, et cetera. And you're keeping a really close eye on those metrics all the time. I used to describe product management, especially in that context, as being sort of you're like the doctor for the product, and you want to quickly identify if anything's wrong, diagnose it, and figure out how to fix it. I think in a B2B context, especially at a smaller company, my company doesn't have that many customers yet. Within those customers, there's not necessarily a ton of users either. So we're a little less dependent on the data than I would say I have been previously. I haven't been doing as much. We actually don't do any A/B testing at this point. So we're doing a lot more talking directly to customers. We're doing a lot more research with our internal stakeholders as well as we figure out how to fix pain points in the product, how to also identify what our roadmap looks like on a macro and a micro basis.
And I'll build off of what Braxton said. He definitely covered some really good points there. One thing I will like to add is that in the end of the day, like the difference, what you do at a B2C company and what you do at a B2B company, in our opinion, is the same, right? You're trying to uncover what the customer problem is. In a B2C company, you have a million, maybe you have millions of users. You can't talk to each individual one at a time. So you use the data as your tool to achieve the user research, right? In a B2B company where one customer can be bringing in millions of dollars, then you weight heavily on that piece of data where what they're saying, what their workflows are that need fixing, and what are the problems that they need to be solved. That one individual customer matters a lot more than an individual customer on the B2C side. But in the end of the day, they're just tools to achieve the same objective. And so understanding the principles of both, even if or like the higher level principles, will make you an attractive generalist PM that can get jobs at other places.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. So philosophically, there's maybe little or no difference. Strategically, there's some difference. I think tactically, there can be maybe more differences.
Yeah. And the general feedback I typically give when I get asked is that, like in a B2C context, you'll have a higher focus on quantitative data, where in B2B you'll have a lot more qualitative input. But I'm curious on the consumer side of things. Like, is there an approach to qualitative data that works well?
You know, it's interesting is because we talked to a number of people in research for our book who are in higher up positions at different companies. And they were saying as the product management discipline has, and this is our experience as well, has matured over the years, maybe the last decade, has been, at first it started so quantitative that any qualitative data was just useless because that's just one person, but look at the data, right? But there's no context to that data. So you see a number drop and you're like, oh, okay, now I'm going to make an assumption on why I think that is, but I don't go out and actually talk to somebody and try to get that qualitative data and hearing that. And that's one of our hypotheses on that drop, for example. So it's a mix. And even at a huge scale company, I think it's important to get in the trenches and talk to a customer and hear what they say and use that as an important piece of data as well, even if it's not something you need to immediately action on right then and there, but it's help building the story about what your customers are doing and how are they liking your product. Braxton, what do you think?
Yeah, when I worked in gaming, we had certainly some users who were more highly engaged, would spend a lot more on in-app transactions. And even if you have a subscription model, you're going to have users who are much more highly engaged as well. And these are the folks you definitely want to be aware of how they're using the product, what they like about the product. They're probably out there promoting your product in many cases too. So it's in many cases it's a good idea to understand them, to know them, to make sure that you're continuing to retain them over the longer term. So yeah, even though we didn't have as direct contact with them as maybe I have now in a B2B context, we were surveying them, we were emailing them, we were reviewing the support tickets that they created or caused to be created. And we were, in some cases, like having focus groups with them or inviting them to our headquarters and getting to know them better, taking them out to dinner even in some cases. So I think that's still really important in a consumer context.